welcome everybody to Look into the Future, where we ask, what would you do if you can go to the future, ask yourself questions? How do you grow your firm? How do you become an advisory powerhouse? And luckily for us, we can just ask the time traveler himself, Paul Latham, and learn the knowledge we need at our firms today to evolve in advisory services, and most importantly, become the most relevant advisor to our clients. As always, I'm Garrett Wagner, your entrepreneurial CPA channel host, and I'm always excited to sit down and learn something with Paul Latham of Handrock Solutions. I always learn some nugget about how to better get into advisory service, how to better position your firm, whatever it is. And today we're talking about something very important, especially as we move past COVID. You try and provide a broader range of services to your clients. We've talked about it before. Paul, we mentioned a lot, the expert zone. So let's talk about how that expert zone is so important right now as your clients' needs really balloon from just tax return to almost everything.
Yep, that's fine. Hi, Garrett. How are you? And welcome, everybody. And I'm feeling good today because I've had a haircut in the last week, so I'm looking a little less like a caveman for today's episode. Are we okay to share the screen, Garrett? Let me just bring it up. Yeah, this subject of essentially positioning your team of experts to clients. I think the key message is here. Obviously, what you need to do is think about what you want to say to your client. This is my style in that I advocate what I would call a proper presentation, particularly the first few times you do it, because I think it sort of keeps you, to use a phrase, it keeps you on script. The more you do that script, the easier it is for you to say. It just becomes a sort of routine. But I think probably even more importantly, it makes it feel real to the client. If you go through something in a proper way, it sort of comes over to them like this is a real thing that you are doing. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how we do it. It's sort of Handrock in conjunction with Elite Mastermind and accountants. And this is actually how we position the expert zone. And one of the things, obviously, you don't need to use our particular script. You can make your own up. But I think one of the things that comes out of this is you're providing context for what you're doing. So if all you're doing is just introducing an expert zone, then in itself that might feel a bit weird. But if you explain why you're doing it and where it all fits in, then I think it feels contextual to the client. So going through the presentation that we would normally go through, whatever the CPA is, but basically the message to the client is we're changing as a firm of accountants. We're changing our accounting focus. We're looking to transition from being compliance focused and more towards add value services, whether that be business strategy, personal planning, and advanced tax planning, or so on. And we're also changing our accounting focus in as much that we recognize that our best clients, they don't want reactive and they usually prefer a proactive service. Let's now look at how that fits into what you might call the traditional 20th century old-fashioned referral model. And basically, when clients requested help, we could reactively make recommendations. But in practice, to be honest, this happened infrequently. And really importantly, we had very little quality control once we've made a referral. So as a firm of accountants, we've decided to upgrade our client service to 21st century. And the way we work today is we can proactively help our clients through our virtual team of best of breed experts, something we call the expert zone. We do this via the Mastermind advanced planning in this case, but our proactive planning process that allows clients to easily access experts through our in-house Mastermind consultants or via the expert zone. Are you interested in finding out more? If you want, I can talk you through the process. And obviously at that point, the client will say, either go away and don't bother me, or yeah, I'm interested in finding out more. And like I've said many, many times, there aren't many clients who aren't interested in proactivity. So most of them listen. And so at this point, we'd say, okay, let's just take you through our 5-step process in overview. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, by the way, for the purposes of this, but in overview, at the top of the screen there, step 1, let's go through a diagnostic, identify your needs. That will identify opportunities. Step 2 is then for the accountant, what we do is we have an exploratory discussion with the relevant expert, really to make sure that that expert feels like a good fit for our client, who obviously we know well. Quite often, step 3, that expert will, may well require a deeper diagnostic. They may need a bit more information before they meet the client. Step 4, introduce the expert to the client. The expert's job is to provide the client with a range of options, potential solutions to their problem. In a word, educate the client as to the possibilities. And then step 5 is where, if the client wants to go ahead, we have plan implementation, where we'll agree the fees in advance. And the reason we have a color code up there, by the way, is to say to the client, everything in blue is free of charge. It's just a proactive service that we provide. You only start paying a fee when you get to green, step 5. So you've got nothing to lose by giving this a try. And I'm not going to go through all 5 steps, but pertinent to your question about introducing the expert, Anton, step 2 is all about the exploratory discussion with the expert. And again, just going into a little more detail there, this is what we're saying to the client. What I'm doing, once I've identified you have a particular solution that needs fixing, I'll find the right virtual expert within our expert zone. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to make sure they're a good potential fit for you. I'm your accountant. I'm your trusted gatekeeper. I know and understand what you're trying to do. I'm basically carrying out due diligence on your behalf to make sure that we're talking to the right person. We're going to access the right expert and basically make sure that, that they're of the right and sufficient quality. And assuming I'm happy with that, we'll move forward. And that's it. So you've introduced the expert zone, but what you've not done is you've not sort of introduced the expert zone in isolation. You've provided a context, and it's a really easy conversation. And we do it all the time. And I never hear clients saying, what are you talking about? And the reason is because they've had a contextual overview. So in summary, once we got to the end of that presentation, we'd be saying, as we said at the beginning, we're changing. We're looking to provide forward-looking, proactive advice based on your needs and introduce added value services. We're here to help provide direction and guidance, starting with the diagnostic. We will introduce you to the expert zone and best of breed experts, but let's get cracking. And so, really, as I said at the beginning, and just to summarize, I advocate a proper presentation. I think it helps keep you on script. It becomes incredibly easy to say once you've said it 2 or 3 times, makes it feel real to the client. But the main message is, don't just introduce an expert zone without context. Explain where it fits into your process and the client will get it. And I think that's really, that's to me, it's as simple as that, Gareth.
And clearly, as you went through that, everybody watching, you can feel like that anxiety, like, oh, how do I do this? Was Paul demonstrating. He's got that script. He said these things so many times. He's no longer having to kind of like have it on his phone and be like, okay, I need to say like, this is our proactive planning process. We're going to introduce you to a team of experts that add value and that are valued, but we want to make sure it's the right solution. Like he's got that down. That's important in script.
And the interesting, I was going to introduce something. It's sort of topical in so much that I happened to have an email last night from a particular accountant who'd been using this as a prelude to then doing the CIQ and then going through the opportunity report. And he was sort of saying, I'm actually finding, if anything, I'm having to now talk too long. My average meeting is sort of 75 minutes to 90 minutes, whereas what we're really saying is it should probably take an hour. It clearly doesn't say take 20 minutes to go through that presentation, but with a bit of chit chat from the client, it probably takes 20 minutes, and then it probably takes 20 minutes to go through the CIQ, and it probably should take 20 minutes to prioritize. So theoretically, it shouldn't take more than an hour. Interestingly, that particular accountant yesterday was finding it hard to get the client to shut up. And his problem was the client was talking too much, which is sort of bizarre when you think about it. And obviously there's a fine line between taking too long and doing it efficiently, but actually his problem was not getting talking. His problem was actually getting the client to stop talking.
To wrap it up. Well, and Paul, my question on this, I see this a lot from accountants, all these things they don't do now. And they feel that pressure of, oh my God, is this a bad thing that I couldn't do these before? How do you kind of get accountants comfortable at Latham before and today, letting go of some of these things, whether it's, you got the notes up there, you got business strategy, advanced tax planning strategies. How do you get accountants comfortable to step back and say, you know what, someone else can do some of these things.
Yeah.
Here's my role.
Yeah, I mean, as a prelude to this, what we've found actually is that the accountants, where it works best, have a bit of a double act going on. In fact, let me go back a couple of slides. If you go back to the one here, do you see where it says CPA firm name, advisor name? And actually, there's a little sort of prelude to this, where what we found is that, you see, the accountants have the trust of the client. This stuff often doesn't come totally naturally to all accountants. Yeah, great if it does, but often they find it more comfortable to work, hand in hand with, say, a financial advisor or someone like that, and those two people then will begin to work as a double act, where the accountant is sort of like the gatekeeper and the trust keeper of the client and the client's, sort of best service and so on. And the advisor is sort of more natural when it comes to doing what you might call a sales process. So often what we're finding is that you can use a couple of people here. It doesn't have to be a financial advisor. But the point really is it doesn't always have to be the accountant taking their clients through this process. Some accountants love it, some accountants don't like it, but find a way to do it for your client. And as with most things in life, try and have the team working effectively. So a combination, for example, of a fairly proactive advisor working with a very trusted accountant is a dynamic team combination. Make it work.
Yeah, and I think that key there is the team. And you kind of look at, I can read some of those little bubbles in the thing there. One that sticks out to me is got that ESOP over there.
Yeah.
Prime example. Yeah. I remember for me personally, I worked at a firm at one point. It was a 50-person firm. And one of the partners just came to my desk one day. It was like, boom, here you go. Like, we're doing an ESOP. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, the client needs an ESOP. Like, they're going to pay us, 10 grand, do it. Like, well, what does that mean? He's like, I don't know. Go buy a guide. I'm like, do it. That's not valuable to the client. Why don't we bring in an actual expert?
You see, this goes back to the word proactive. I always used to say, Garrett, there are two types of proactivity. There's being proactive for the client, which is understanding their needs and then working on them, or there's being proactive for yourself to sell something. And what you've just described is somebody being proactive for their own best wishes so they can sell something for 10 grand. That's not proactive for the client. That's proactive on behalf of the accounting firm. And they're two really different things.
Yeah, they totally are. So that makes sense. I think it's more important than ever, as our clients have many different needs coming out of COVID-19, that they need these other experts to come in. So it's a great time to introduce this, as everyone's kind of coming back to the semblance of normal and saying, well, what do? I need these other pieces. Now's a great time to bring it up.
Yeah. And by the way, that example of ESOP is sort of an example of the whole thing, which is that, clients have got, it might be 50 different things. Well, you can't hope to be an expert in 50 different things, but what you are is an expert in your client's needs. You become an expert in your client's needs and then introducing them to the person who's an expert, for example, in an ESOP or whatever it may be. And that way we end up staying in our lanes, specializing in what we do well and doing the best job for the client.
And that's what actually matters. That's the most important part. He said, doing what's best for the client. So Paul, as always, thank you for stopping by today. Thank you for tuning in. And if you want to kind of learn how prepared you are to use the expert zone with your clients, see how it works in action, see this kind of the biz survey that we've talked about that Paul mentioned here, click the link below, take your free objective assessment and see how ready you are to be proactive and relevant to your clients. I strongly encourage everybody to click the link, take the test. As I said, thank you for watching. You can click to subscribe on the YouTube channel. We challenge you today to take action to change this crazy world and invest in yourself.